BBC Africa busted. The lies and deceptive, of course, investigation carried out by BBC was employed to distract Nigerians from the main issue bordering on existence, this insecurity rocking the entire country, and of course the hardship that has been devastating almost the entire region of this country. Humanity is at the risk of extinction. And here we have a body, an international reporting media, who claim to be here to do business of investigations, and they fail to engage themselves in more investigative, of course, journalism that will engender freedom, that will engender prosperity, and of course, a better life for the citizens, or the, of course, citizens of Africa. But unfortunately, they have reduced themselves to a mere gossip block. I mean, the BBC Africa, I'm so disappointed at your, dispositions of most recent. What is your objectives? What is your mission in Africa? Is it just to tell us the book, cock and book story? What has the investigation with TB Joshua has to do with the plight of Nigerians? The killings that is going on in Plateau State, where the genocide, children are being killed, and you don't see BBC Africa reporting these issues, trying to find out, make investigations. Why are these killings being sustained, even regardless of whatever may be the, of course, the body language of the government? BBC Africa is quite unfortunate. BBC Africa is, they said, is an investigative branch of the BBC World Service. It has a network of local and investigative journalism, and researchers, of course, are working for what? You have is an international, this blah, 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 blah. What purpose has BBC to serve in Africa? These are fundamental questions we must ask. We cannot just swallow whatever they are coming with. Who are they representing? Is it the interests of Africa or the interests of their master, the British? If BBC are truly engaged in investigative journalism, they should be able to tell us, make a documentary of the involvement of the British government in the genocidal war of 1967 to 1970, carried against the Biafran states, where over 5 million people were lost. Majority as a result of starvation, hunger. BBC Africa should be able to tell us the involvement of the British government in that massacre of innocent Biafrans from the defunct, of course, Eastern region. You should be able to tell us, what are you doing to expose the endemic corruption within our political space in Nigeria? You said you have, of course, let me come here. You said you have in just investigative journalists and the researchers. I'm working across Africa, or whatever you care to say. It is not my business. What is your mission in Africa? We have not forgotten too soon how British played the role in impoverishing Africa. Look at all the colonized African states. They are as unstable economically, security-wise, because of the continued new colonization of the British government, because of the vested interest they have in Africa, just to exploit the African states, impoverishing the population of Africa, and making the political space ungovernable, so that they will continue to exploit the African states. So, of what value, of what economic importance, of what security advantage is the investigation of BBC Africa regarding the TB Joshua? They are only known for blackmail, cheap blackmail. Why not carry investigation and tell us how many billions of dollars has been stolen in Nigeria by the Nigerian politicians? And how many have been carted away to the British Empire, to the British banks? Billions of naira, if not trillions of dollars that have been looted by the with the conspiracy of the British entity, the British government. Nigeria has continued to be so backwards, so retrogressive because of the new colonization of the British government. And here comes BBC Africa. They are only coming here to blackmail, to make, submissions that are not relevant to the existence of humanity. TB Joshua, of course, established his church as far back as 1987. And you have been watching since. Not until he dies you start making noise. We understand, of course, there have been some controversies after his death, as some people trying to take control of the church, of course, and control the resources of the church. And of which the wife of the late prophet resisted them. There was litigations and legal battles, of course, very fierce one. And possibly the aggrieved ones who lost out might possibly turn around and begin to blackmail or trying to spoil the image of the church. I'm not standing in for, of course, TB Joshua. Of course, he may have his lapses, but that is not my concern. The very concern is that what if you are truly investigative into investigative journalism? What have you been doing since 1987? It means your impact, your presence is not felt. Your presence, the BBC Africa presence is not felt in Africa. I would recommend that they leave the shores of Africa. They should retire back in shame because they are not serving any purpose here. Children are being killed and BBCs are not reporting it. Are they not humans? Or are they monkeys that are being killed on the eve of Christmas, to Christmas and the next day? What investigation has BBC done regarding this massacre, this genocide, spanning over close to 50 communities, if I'm not mistaken? Still counting. And you're telling me you are BBC Africa? As much as I care, what does that mean? You left crucial issues untouched in this season, in this era, where almost all African states are unstable economically, security-wise. You are not carrying out your investigative journalism. You are just coming here to tell us cock and book story, seeking for attention. You have exhausted your relevance. Of course, you never meant well for Africa. You never meant fair for Nigerians. What was your involvement in the last elections? What are your findings? How committed are you to the consolidation of the democratic process in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? People died, children died, and BBC Africa have not made any investigations since 24th, 25th, 26th of December. Up to now, could have been the 9th of January 2024. You're coming to tell us stories, that is immaterial, that is not relevant to an average Nigerian, that does not matter to them, after the demise of a man who, of course, his antecedents and the influence is being felt across the globe. You should go to Britain and find out what you are doing there. the level of atrocity committed by the British government and her citizens. You are coming here to tell us our story. You can't tell us our story. You can't change the narrative. We're too smart and too intelligent to accept such. We are not gullible. We understood you never represent our interests and you never represent the interests of an average African man, let alone the continent. You are only there for exploitation. You are only there to make, cheap blackmails. Who cares? People are dying. Look at the inflation rates. You are not telling us who are those stealing our oil, the wealth of the nation. Which even the government admitted that over 80% of the oil explorations are being stolen. Nobody tells us who steals them. And you say you have BBC Africa. What are they doing? You say you're into research, investigative, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That is madness. I don't accept that. That is my opinion. As far as I'm concerned, your relevance has been exhausted. Go back. Leave the shores of Africa. Of course, I commend what the Niger Republic did and the Burkina Faso and other African countries. Having understood the antecedents of this new and the new approach of new colonization, you should be booted out of Africa because your relevance, you have overstayed your welcome. Things are happening. People are dying. There is hunger. You have not told us what is happening. You have not unraveled the mysteries. What takes you to cover up what is going on, the atrocities in the northern regions of the country, where some Islamic militias have overrun so many local governments as part of the states, and are collecting taxes, leaving the citizens of this country. You're not telling the story. You're not telling the narrative. You are here just to change the narrative. Go to the east. People are dying on a daily basis. People are being massacred on the basis of course, expressing their own political affiliation and the right to self-determination. You are not telling the story. Is the Geneva Convention not covers? Does Geneva Convention not cover Nigeria? Not cover the eastern region of the country, who were massacred on a daily basis? Does it not cover the children and the families that were wasted on a daily basis, even in Kaduna? Southern Kaduna has become genocidal, of course, war. Cold blood war going on. The massacre of indigenous people of the Southern Kaduna, and BBC Africa is there, have not given us details, have not carried out investigative research to tell us and unravel if you really meant the interest of the welfare of the African people. It is quite sad and unfortunate. It is unacceptable. It is deceptive. You can't be paid to do this dirty job and think we are too gullible to accept that. You should let TB Joshua to rest. He has gone to face his maker. So what our concern, of course, is, and where lies our interest, is the welfare of humanity within this contraption. How far are you committed to that? It is quite unfortunate. It is quite sad. As far as I'm concerned, what BBC is just busy doing is just blackmail. And that cannot change, of course, those cannot change the position of those who love the minister of God, of course, and his ministry. He has made several impacts across the globe. You may have your reservations or whatever, the torture, the whatever you are telling. Are you not seeing parts of the generosity across the globe? You've not seen that. You are just taking, beaming your whatever, deceptive, whatever, uh, 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 on the errors, the perceived errors or whatever cooked up errors. Of course, those aggrieved who has been displaced from the leadership positions and their beneficiaries will also, of course, want to spoil the show for those who are currently in charge. So that will not be a surprise to me. They can go at all lengths, of course, to seek a way, of course, to tarnish the image of the commission, of the ministry, or whatever, because they have lost grip, they have lost control, they have lost control of the resources, of course, which is the major contention here. It is quite unfortunate. So BBC should live up to responsibilities. BBC Africa, in particular, you are a disappointment to humanity as far as I am concerned. You have not served any purpose. Look at Mazen Khan, who is a British citizen, has been languishing in detention, DSS detention. You have not come out to tell us why he is still held behind bars and to expose the lies to the world. It is quite unfortunate. It is quite unfortunate. So sad. We are not gullible. You can't deceive us. We know better. This time, we know better. You're only there to create some narratives and see how to exploit the African state. We are not distracted. We know our problems. Our problems are local, are peculiar to us. Even though when you don't want to tell our stories, we can tell our stories. Stop deceiving Africa. BBC Africa, stop deceiving us. We are knowledgeable enough to tell our stories. The stories BBC government, British government costs us. We will tell our stories in the right time. We know the stories, the agonies and the pains, the frustrations you have caused Africa. We will tell the story. You can't cover it up. You can't use frivolities and inconsequential issues to distract the attention of Nigerians who are seeking for true governance, for true democratic dividends, and accountability on the part of the political class. That cannot be a distraction to us. We are focused and will continue to beam our light and demand that what is right and due for the citizens must be done. I can assure you that we are very much prepared, regardless of your cheap propagandas. There's a distractions. Who cares? You've been noticed why. Why can't you carry out the investigations? Only now we are coming to tell a different story that is immaterial, inconsequential to the existence of humanity. I'm ashamed. Of course, I'm not surprised. I know what you represent.